We are John and Ellie, the Barefoot Doctors. Join us on this journey because life is better barefoot. Welcome back, adventurers. What do they know that we don't? We had another decision to make. We needed to get back to Tahiti, and we had friends that were arriving, so we had a 220 nautical mile passage ahead of us. So for several days we'd been talking to other yachties about when they were going to leave Tikihau. One boat had different considerations because it was a monohull, and another boat was much bigger and could handle rougher conditions more comfortably. And then we had Loulou. Every boat has its own limits, its own characteristic, and its own sweet spot. So there isn't always a perfect departure day. There's the best day for your boat. And according to the weather forecast, this was going to be one of the better days. Not perfect, just better, and sometimes that's all a sailor needs.
And while we wait for our chosen departure date, let's go and explore the other exciting things that Tikihau has to offer.
Well, hi guys. Today is another beautiful day, apart from being
Still a bit windy.
Still a bit windy, not too bad. But we're on our way of leaving the atoll, but today we're going for a little adventure. And we're taking the boat all the way over, about 3 miles away, to an island where the boobies are.
It's only 3 miles away, so we're going to motor over with the boat, the big boat.
Watching out for bombies. So we have to anchor on the west side because that's a little bit of protection there for us. And one of the other tips they said is wear a hat.
For the bird poo. Okay,
so,
should we go?
So would you like to come with us again? Come on, let's go.
So here we are sailing to Bird Island, Ile de Uso. I don't know how you pronounce Uso or birds in French, but there it is. Ile Uso. And over there is the Garden of Eden, or Island of Eden, it's actually the correct name. But in English they translate it to Garden of Eden because it sounds more religious. And there's little Honey. So we're sailing in the middle of the day. Well, it's about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're looking for bombies, although the charts say there's nothing at all between here and there. There's one little sand spit shallow area on the satellite images up there, but a fair way away, so we have a straight run all the way through. But we have Elizabeth on the bow just for safety. Just the jib up. We're doing 6 knots at about 1800 revs because it's only a 3-mile trip. I'm not going to put the mainsail up for sailing half an hour on the engines. And also Elizabeth wants a hot shower tonight, so we'll run the engine, and that will give Elizabeth a hot shower and keep her happy. And over the intercom she's saying, she's so needy, isn't she? Because we've been here about 7 days. We had a hot shower the first day, lukewarm shower the second day, and then cold shower since then. But it is tropical here, so we don't really have a problem with it being too cold.
There's quite a high bommy there. I mean, it might be best if we do reef shoes and tie up over there or something. Anywhere here?
Yeah, so we've got the anchor just sitting on some hard coral, short chain, and we're tied on with a rope to another little bit of coral at the front, wrapped around a few times. It's not going to do any damage. The weight's being taken on the chain, and the rope out front shouldn't chafe, but that's the kind of gnarly stuff we want to keep the dinghy away from. Look at that, very dinghy unfriendly. So here we are. Birds everywhere. Right there. Nests, lots of nests. You can see the babies on the other side. And baby, do you see the baby? And on this island they have the path marked with a polypropylene line, so you just follow it along. That also keeps you off or on the same track to protect the nests of the birds that are on the ground. They don't want people walking everywhere and disturbing nests, so you walk along the path, but it also allows you to find your way back to the boat, because it's completely disorientating when you're walking through this sort of jungle. Polypropylene line.
John's swimming us through all the reef so we don't bottom out. Well, we made it back to Loulou after being inundated with boobies and birds
boobies.
and all sorts of things. Some people might really like that, but it was really good actually. We saw lots of nesting birds.
Very up close.
Yeah, they weren't afraid at all. They were very obviously
Flew away when you got too close.
yeah, but they're used to having people trek through the bush and have a look at them. But it was really super cool. And then John did some snorkeling, and I came back to pick him up. And now it's time for a little bit of lunch. Okay, guys. So we are making our way back to the pass, so we can make our way back to Tahiti. But first we have to go 7 miles across the atoll. It's gusting anything from 20 to 26, 27 knots. We've got a path where we've got to follow so that we don't run into any bommies or anything like that, which is reassuring, because at the moment I can't see anything out there because the light's not on the water enough. But to get out of the pass, we've got to time it properly too. So anyway, this is part of sailing. It's not fun. You probably can't see the waves because it never does it justice. But they're decent. We're getting spray over the front and over the side. Up under the dinghy. Like it's going to be the start of a wet fall trip. And considering we're actually in the atoll, there's a heck of a lot of swell. So begs the question what it's going to be like out there. The captain says it'll be fine, and we'll be sailing with the wind. I'm more of a fair weather sailor than he is. Anyway, I better go out and do a watch. Got some gnarly rocks ahead. My choice would be to go tomorrow, but then the wind dies the second day, and John the sailor's not happy with that one. So let's hope it's not too bad out there.
Now we approach the Tikihau Pass, which is where we had that really exciting run into the atoll just before the storm. And you can see how dramatically different things can be on a different day. Today we have lovely smooth water and even a favourable current. So everything is very peaceful and very pleasant. It's always very satisfying when you get through a pass without any difficulty, but it's really hard to believe how dramatically different it can be under different circumstances. Sailors beware.
Coming out of the pass, we were still protected by the atoll, but gradually the protection disappeared. The horizon opened up and the Pacific started to get bigger and bigger.
Okay guys, so we are sailing along, doing 8 knots in, wow, 25 knots at the moment. 7 and 8 knots. You can see the sea state is pretty unpleasant. Big swells, look at that, huge swells, because there's been a storm going on for a few days. Let's pull a bit of Genoa in, just to reduce the amount of sail. Okay guys, so it is about 11 AM now. Conditions are pretty much the same as before. Really big seas, look at that. 3 meters, 4 meters maybe. Whoa. There's the next one, that's not quite so big. Look at the peaking waves out the back. Peaking waves all over the place actually. It's a bit of a confused sea as well, which makes it unpleasant. They were running parallel earlier on, which was nice, but now they're all broken up and you have separate waves. And I think when you have them all broken up, you can look at that, look at the size of that one, and we're just about to go right under us. Whoa, and big drop down. And then another one that looked like it was level with our solar panels when we were in the bottom part. But there's our sails, third reef in the main, rolled in jib, probably, I don't know, first or second reef on the jib, but anyway it's up to it must be the second reef, although there's no official markings on that jib, but the telltales are covered. And there's something I'm not happy about with the set that I have made on this sail, and I'd be curious to know if anybody can tell me what I'm not happy with. There is a specific thing that irritates me when I can't fix it, because it's not the best way to have your sail. So third reef in. On the upside, I haven't changed the sail since we came out of the channel. When the wind got up to 25 knots, we rolled a bit of the Genoa, the jib in to reduce the sail a bit, and since that time we have just been going along at these speeds of 6, 7, sometimes 8 knots. So 6.3 knots, 6.1, wind speed is 22, 21 knots, 7, 6.8. True wind speed at the moment is 21, so it's a little bit softer than normal. But the other thing is I am going to be sailing this boat more slowly than I would be normally if I was alone, but Elizabeth doesn't like the rough water, doesn't like the slapping, so we are going to make it as pleasant and smooth a sail as we possibly can. And there's Elizabeth taking her drugs.
It's supplements and vitamins.
Magnesium, calcium, vitamin D3 for your bones and your heart protection. She can't swallow tablets very well. Doesn't like needles, doesn't like swallowing tablets. Wouldn't make a good drug addict, would you?
Right, you see the side of those suckers?
Oh, you poor thing.
I mean, they're horse tablets like this.
Uh-huh. But anyway, guys, we've also set up the bed again, so we can actually lie here, see the sails through the window up there, and see the instrument and the wind and the performance. Eagerly awaiting the wind easing off and moving more to the north. But the easing off, we believe, is going to happen this afternoon, and the moving to the north is going to happen through the night. Then it'll be further behind us. The sail angle will be easier. We'll probably take out some of the reefs as well.
The wind was actually in a better direction than it had been on the way over, but the swells, they were impressive 3 meters, 4 meters, huge rolling waves of water coming across the Pacific. John set the course and we settled into the passage. There wasn't much to say, and that's unusual for us. We're normally talking, laughing, planning, filming, doing something, but this time we were both pretty quiet, because sometimes the ocean gives you a lot to think about. When you're in the middle of the Pacific, you realize just how small you are. Not insignificant, just small. You can spend your entire life learning. You can become experienced. You can study the weather. You can know your boat intimately. You can prepare. You can plan. And you can make good decisions. But ultimately, you don't control the ocean. You don't control the wind. And you don't control the swell. You don't control the weather. You simply make the best decision you can with the information you have at that moment. And then you live with the consequences. A few times during the passage, while I was on watch, John was catching up on some well-earned sleep. And there were moments when the swells became so impressive, I almost woke him up. Almost. But I didn't. I just watched. The swells would come from behind or sweep across our side, and Loulou would climb, rise, tip over the top, and then slide down into the trough again and again and again. And it became like a rhythm. The only interruption was the occasional crash of the water across the deck or a wave breaking against the side of the boat. But strangely, after a while it became almost peaceful. There's something about being surrounded by nothing but ocean that strips everything back. You start to think about the last few weeks, the places you've been, the people you've met, and the sailors you've shared anchorages with, the stories, the laughs, and the things you didn't know when you arrived, and you now know. The little tricks, the passages, the places that you would never have found if someone hadn't told you about them. Thanks, Paul and Kelly from Oops. And you realise that cruising isn't really about the places. It's about the people you meet along the way, the sailors who give you the advice, and the locals that point you towards the better anchorage. The boat beside you that stays through the night and quietly tells you you're probably okay here. There's an enormous amount of trust involved in this life, and perhaps that's why sailing communities can be so close-knit.
Okay guys, so it is now 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and it's continuing to be a grey old day. Look at that. Nothing particularly bright or exciting, just grey cloud. The solar's still working though. We're remaining at 100% solar power, but this is pretty much a grey, unexciting day. The wind has been hovering mostly above 20 knots. It only occasionally goes under 20 knots, but still between 20 and 25. So we've kept the same sails up as before. The third reef in the main, and a reefed jib. And along with that, we're sailing along at 6.5, 7, 8, well, there you go, an 8, 7.5, etc. But the sea state is better. If you look at it, when we were seeing it before, there was a lot more big white horses. The swell was a lot more vicious and confused. So the sea state is actually settling down. There's a big wave coming up behind us here, but not really as big as they were at 10 o'clock or all the morning actually. And of course the forecast is for it to ease off in strength. So the winds will, I'll get out of the noise. So the winds are forecast to ease off down to gusting to 22, 21, but regular strength of 18 to 16 knots. And through the night it'll also move more to the north, so it'll come more behind us, and we'll be able to ease the sails out and hopefully make an easier sail too. But we're sailing now on a broad reach So it's relatively comfortable despite pretty horrible sea state and quite a strong wind. The Nautitech 40 is sailing along really well. This is pretty good going. We've really done nothing since we left the channel at Tiki Hau, which is in the Tuamotus. So this 200-mile crossing we'll get done in just over 24 hours. So fingers crossed, don't count your chicks until they hatch. But that's what we're thinking. If we do 7 knots on average, we'll get there in just over 24 hours. A lot of people say, well, what's it like when you're on a watch or when you're out at sea? And really, unless there are things happening, it's pretty boring. Like Elizabeth's just done some listening to meditations and chanting, but you pass the time and you're just watching the gusts, watching the boat performance. If there's nothing to do with the sails, then you can do other things. I'm going to, on the rest of this afternoon, I'll do a bit of French, try to improve my French language, and at some point I'll do some exercise with the weights to put that physical work in. That's what it's like. Looking the other way, grey, bleak, but favourable. Pushing us along at a nice pace. Okay guys, it's now mid-afternoon. How much is it now? About 2:34. But we are now having tea, afternoon tea in our Tahiti mugs. But we have chocolate donuts from the patisserie at Tiki Hau, and also the coconut, brown coconut, and some green coconut at the same time. So this is easy to eat, that takes a lot more chewing. That is our afternoon tea. The plants, which normally live here, have been taken downstairs to the shower in the guest cabin so they don't get stressed with seeing the world all around them and get salt water as well. Some seeds for rocket. So all those little things there are rocket seeds, coming on nicely. There's some more rocket seeds because we didn't know if they were going to plant. These are cuttings from the mint plant that we've planted again. But it smells lovely in here. Mint and basil, fantastic. Okay guys, so it is about 5 p.m. now. The sun, if there was a sun, would be about to set. But as you can see around, it's all grey skies all through that way, all through there. A bit of blue sky over there. So that's a little bit of pleasantness, but we're still sailing along with the third reef in the main, and the full jib is out, but it's still gusting 24 knots at times, which is making it a bumpy ride, and the night is coming on. So what I'm going to do right now is reef the jib again, just to slow the boat down to make it a more comfortable ride for sleeping, because as you can hear, every now and again when you're going fast, you skid over the waves and then you bounce and the underwing hits one of these big pointed waves like that thing out the back there. So that's what we're doing. We will go slower, probably a knot, at least a knot slower actually, so that we have a nice comfortable ride. It does make it much easier for people to sleep. And it also makes the ride less jerky. So that's the plan. Honey, I want to reef the jib. So same as before, if you let the jib out, just don't let it flog. So if people are interested, this is the furling line for the jib. So that will pull it in, but obviously we have a manual winch here. Elizabeth lets the jib off on that side, so it is loose. That'll allow me to pull it in. Okay, let it go, honey. And she also doesn't, she stops. She lets it far enough out so that it flaps, but not flogs. So, and I'm going to take it into where we've, okay, pull it in at that, hun. Now we don't have any telltales to use, so just eyeballing. We're going broad reach, so it's pretty much very forgiving anyway.
That's better?
You feel better?
Yeah, that's better. It's less. Whatever that word is.
That's a nautical term. What was it again? That's obviously the boat bouncing over the waves as you're sailing along at great speed. Coined by Elizabeth. Now, how do you spell that, honey? Ari, 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 Ari.
That's just softened it out a little bit. You know, it has less intensity. This Loulou, she wants to go. As I watched those enormous swells rolling through the Pacific, I found myself thinking about something very simple. The ocean doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care if you have somewhere to be. It doesn't care if you have friends waiting in Tahiti. It doesn't care how experienced you are. And strangely, I think that's one of the things I love about it, because every now and then it's good to be reminded that you're not in charge of everything. You make a plan, you check the weather, you study the charts, you listen to people who know the places, you choose your moment, and then you go. We left the atoll with more than we arrived with. Not just footage and not just stories, but a little more knowledge, a few little scars, and more friendships, and perhaps a little more respect for how little we actually are in control. Because when you're sitting in the middle of the Pacific watching 4-metre swells rise behind your boat, you realise very quickly what matters. Not the things you thought mattered. It's the people, the experiences, the people waiting for you at the other end, and the people you met along the way. The moments you almost missed because you were too busy worrying about what came next. And maybe that's what the ocean gives you, perspective. Not because it teaches you a lesson, but because it makes everything else very small. We still had a long way to go. Tahiti was somewhere out there ahead of us, 220 odd miles of Pacific, and another passage waiting to be lived. But now we were simply riding the swells, doing what sailors have always done, reading the water, watching the weather, trusting the boat, trusting each other, and accepting that sometimes the best you can do is make the best decision you can with what you know, and then see what the ocean decides. The ocean doesn't tell you everything, but it always gives you something to think about.
And as always, a big thanks to our Patreons who support the Tough Minds program, which is continuing to make a big difference and save lives around the world every single day.
So, we'll see you in next week's video. Bye from us.